Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today we'll be taking a look at all the upgrades which I've done to this machine and talk about which ones were worth it and which ones were not. I purchased all these components for the purposes of this video and no money has exchanged hands. Full disclaimer, I'm in no way responsible if any damages may occur, so do these mods at your own risk. Over the past couple of weeks we've upgraded the build plate, the adjustment knobs, pulley wheels, springs, extruder, axis, Bowden tube, and added a CR Touch for auto bed leveling. So while that's a lot of different components, many of these only become a requirement for specific use cases. So to start things off, we'll take a closer look at which hot end upgrades were actually worth doing. First and foremost, even though this may sound underwhelming, this is easily one of the most important upgrades I recommend, especially when it comes to Corally machines. Almost all the budget-friendly printers I've bought have had issues with the stock Bowden tube at some point in time, and in most cases, when it does decide to fail, it's really bad. A simple replacement of the Bowden tube with a Capricorn one can save you countless hours of frustration, and it's the cheapest upgrade on the list. Now, because I know all of you want to know about the all metal hot end, I'll say that it's definitely worth upgrading to a quality hot end by a known company with a good reputation. Generally speaking, the hot end that comes with most machines will be functional until you try to print at a higher temperature, especially when you begin creeping up at the 135 mark. Even if your machine is rated for a higher temperature, both the Bowden tube and the hot end may not be suitable for those temperatures. Very important to keep in mind is that you need to modify your machine's firmware to allow for the higher temperature settings once you've upgraded your machine. Quite a few all-metal hot ends still require Capricorn tubing inside, but most of them come with a Bowden tube, so make sure to swap that out before using it. There can be quite a lot of debate as to whether upgrading the standard Bowden tube to a direct drive is worthwhile, but once again it will depend on your specific use case. If you intend to print mostly flexible filaments, then this is something you may wish to take a closer look at, since there's less chances of the filament compressing within the Bowden tube. If you don't have money to upgrade to a direct extruder setup, simply upgrading to a Capricorn tubing can actually solve some of the issues because of the higher tolerances, but make sure to check that your tubing doesn't have any defects prior to installing it. When using a direct extruder, you want to keep in mind your retraction amounts and speeds will need to change. Almost all of my direct extruder machines have a retraction distance set to 0.6 with a retraction speed of 20, and for the most part this has given me the best results thus far. Now, if you do decide to install a direct extruder, the kit that I use is just one of many on the market today, but you should also upgrade your machine to have a dual Z-axis if this is the case. The additional weight on the extruder can cause issues, so adding some stability would greatly improve your overall prints. If you decide to add an additional Z-axis, you may also want to look at upgrading the pulley wheels. In this case, I have to say that unless you actually have flat spots on your wheels, this isn't really a useful update. Another YouTuber made a great video testing this and showed that the material that you see coming off the wheels goes away once they've worn in a bit. So unless it's actually necessary, maybe leave this mod alone for now. Do you need a CR Touch? Well, no, but maybe yes for convenience. So if you're willing to update the firmware, then this can be useful in a scenario where you're continuously changing between filament types. For this to be truly beneficial, you will need to run the bed leveling prior to starting a new print after the print bed is up to the correct temperature. This normally takes the form of adding a G29 command within your G-code, within your start G-code, and while this will help the bed leveling accuracy, it can increase your print time by quite a bit, so just make sure to keep this in mind. Upgrading the adjustment knobs and tensioning springs are not necessary unless you're adding a flex build plate. So if you're looking to add a flex build plate, make sure to install silicone columns instead of springs. I found that I had to consistently adjust my print bed when I had the springs on, and this only started to happen once I began using the flex build plate. I can only assume that the process of removing and placing the build plate causes the spring to loosen much more quickly, but the moment I added the silicone columns, this stopped being an issue. This brings us to our final mod which we undertook for this machine, the flex build plate in all its glory. Now in my case, I didn't find it necessary, but it was useful for larger prints that took up most of the surface. On smaller prints, however, I found this to have the opposite effect, and this was the complete reverse of a glass build plate. So if you're planning on printing smaller objects, then the glass build plate will do just fine. However, if you plan on filling up your build plate, then a PEI flex build plate is a great choice. There are some things you want to keep in mind though. The build plate temperature in my case needed to be raised, and it needs to be within 5 degrees difference, otherwise the print could simply simply peel right off. Before you start printing with the Flex build plate, try cleaning it with soap and water first, since some people including me had issues with the build surface until it was cleaned off. After that, you can use isopropyl alcohol to clean its surface or continue using soap and water instead. I would try both and see which works best for you. As you can see, not all of the expensive mods provided all that much in return, so I would look at your use case to evaluate your needs instead. I'm currently working on a comparison video for this machine and the Ender 3 S1 that just came in, so keep an eye out for that since I'll be comparing which one was a better deal for your money. I've started creating downloadable support files and mods for the machines I've reviewed, so if you're looking for some additional information, I would suggest you follow the link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you and take care.